صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك، وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. تكبير. اللهم صل على الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيما، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي. أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا، وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي يبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أرى مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي. يا رب إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك. كأن لي التطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل، وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله، ولا شبيه يشاكله، ولا ظهير يعاضده. قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني. فأثني عليه حامدا، وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه، ولا يغلق بابه، ولا يرد سائله، ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين، وينجي الصالحين، ويرفع المستضعفين، ويضع المستكبرين، ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها، وترجف الأرض وعمارها، وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا، وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق، ويرزق ولا يرزق، ويطعم ولا يطعم، ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى، وهو حي لا يموت، بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي. حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر، وحفه بملائكتك المقربين، وأيده بالروح القدس يا رب العالمين. صلوات. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له. أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به، وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا، واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفيا بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله، وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه، وما قصرنا عنه فبلغناه. اللهم المم به شعثنا، واشعب به صدعنا، وارتق به فتقنا، وكثر به قلتنا، وأعزز به ذلتنا، وأغن به عائلنا، واقض به عن مغرمنا، واجبر به فقرنا، وسد به خلتنا، ويسر به عسرنا، وبيض به وجوهنا، وفك به أسرنا، وأنجح به طلبتنا، وأنجز به مواعيدنا، واستجب به دعوتنا، وأعطنا به سؤلنا، وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا، وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا. يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين، اشف به صدورنا، وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا، واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك، إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق. آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله، وغيبة ولينا، وكثرة عدونا، وقلة عددنا، وشدة الفتن بنا، وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله، وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله، وبضر تكشفه، ونصر تعزه، وسلطان حق تظهره، ورحمة منك تجللناها، وعافية منك تلبسناها، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Let us remember in our du'as the deceased members of our families, our community, the ulama and shuhada of Islam, and in particular the families of our sponsors for today, the family of Noshin Kazim, Nayab Qambar, Afshan Abbas, and their marhumin. I will read off the names that we are requested for Surah Fatiha: Hussein Ali, Bande Ali, the Alwani family, the Bande Ali family, Rojani family, Compounder family, the Nayani family, Bhojani family, Lakhani and Panjwani families. And we have been requested for Surah Al-Fatiha for Amir Hussein Vitre, who passed away in Arizona, and all other marhumin. If I have missed anyone's name, let us recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta 'alayhim ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. We've also been requested to ask Allah for shifa and for recovery for Rizwan Akbar, who had open heart surgery today in Arlington Hospital. May Allah grant him shifa and siha and afia and a full recovery. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Testing. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have looked at a few of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam with regard to the danger of becoming too attached to this world and the importance of zuhd and separating ourselves from material concerns. The reason for this is that the more our mind is attached to this world, the more difficult the process of death and transitioning to the hereafter becomes for us. So if my nostalgia and my attachment to a particular home is very strong, then I'm not going to be able to enjoy any other place. Maybe I actually go to a better house, more modern, more up-to-date, more facilities, but because I have a personal or emotional connection to the old home, I do not enjoy the new surroundings and the blessings that are there, and instead I am thinking about that old place. I miss it. That is something that we can experience even in our material lives. It's one reason why many of us, even when our shoes, for example, may be ready to be thrown away, we just can't bring ourselves to wear a new pair of shoes. Or sometimes people have that same type of an attachment to certain articles of clothing that they're comfortable with. Or it might be a home or anything else. That nostalgia makes it difficult to separate yourself from it. Some of us are unencumbered by nostalgia, and if that's the case, then just trust me, it is a reality that does exist. But all of us will have some kind of attachment to this world, even those of us who are not nostalgic. The extent of that attachment is going to determine how easy it is for us to transition from this life to the next life. For a believer, the next life is not just an upgrade to a better car or a better home, but it is incomparable what the transition is. It is a better place. But if my eyesight is limited to the material world, I'm not even going to see the good things that are waiting for me in the hereafter. I will be looking backward to this world and saying, I don't want to leave. I won't be able to appreciate the blessings that Allah has in store because my attention is somewhere else. As Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam says, من كثر اشتباكه في الدنيا كان أشد لحسرته عند فراقها. If you are very much entwined with this world, you are enmeshed in this world, then when you leave it, you will be filled with regret, and you will have a hard time leaving it. So the solution, at least in theory, is very simple. It doesn't mean that you separate yourself from this world and live in a cave. It means that when you are living, you make your attention and your thinking focus on the hereafter. And whatever you have in this world, think of it in terms of how it can help you build a better hereafter. The things that you enjoy. If you want to have a spacious house, then think of it as the place where you want to raise a pious family, where you want to be able to invite your relatives and your fellow believers to share their company and to be a good host. And you don't have to invite them every day. It might just be an occasional invitation, but your intention is that this home is my base for establishing a pious life for my family and my loved ones and for my relatives and for my fellow believers. And then your attention is how you can use that blessing for the hereafter. Then you are not going to have a hard time departing that material blessing when the time for the hereafter comes. There is a very beautiful example given to us by our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu was-salam, for that ishtibak of this world, that person who is enmeshed in this world. He says this is like dudatul qaz, like a silkworm. A silkworm wraps itself in its silk, and the more that it wraps itself in that very valuable, very luxurious material, the closer it is to its death, because it doesn't come out of that alive. It's harvested, the silk comes and it's sold for great profit, but the silkworm does not survive that process. So a person who is enmeshed in this world is like that silkworm, wrapping themselves in a cocoon. It might seem to be very luxurious, very profitable and valuable, but in the end that is going to be the undoing and the death of that person, just like it is the undoing of that silkworm. Another example given to us by our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam, he says that if a believer in particular has a desire for leadership and material wealth, that's what motivates them, then I will be like a prey for a rabid animal, a predator, a wolf. The Imam says, مَا ذِئْبَانِ ضَارِيَانِ فِي غَنَمٍ قَدْ غَابَ عَنْهَا رِعَاؤُهَا أحدهما في أولها والآخر في آخرها بأضر من حب المال والشرف في دين المسلم. If you imagine that there is a flock of sheep and the shepherd is gone somewhere at a distance, not there to protect. So it's just an unprotected flock of sheep. And then two hungry wolves come, one from one side and one from the other. So it'll be quick work for them to destroy that flock. More than they are going to eat, they will hunt and they will destroy, and that flock will be scattered. Some of them will be killed, some of them will be scattered. The shepherd might come back and there's nothing left. The Imam says that picture that you have of two hungry wolves attacking from two sides, a flock that has no shepherd or protector, that is not a greater loss or danger than if a believer loves to have wealth or loves to have sharaf, meaning a position of elite status or a position of superiority over others in terms of the deen or the faith of that person. And this is something that we have to be very careful about, because we might get ahead in our professional lives by putting ourselves out there. Sometimes, maybe we put our best foot forward, and sometimes we go a little bit above and we have to kind of polish and massage the truth in order to compete in a very competitive or in certain professional environments. That becomes our habit, to look at our accomplishments, our career, our title, and think that we deserve to get ahead on that basis. But when it comes to our religion, and when it comes to our relationship with our fellow believers, we should want not to be distinct or superior to any fellow believer. So if I feel, for example, like my phone is fancier than somebody else, I'm better dressed than somebody else, I am more educated than somebody else, I have a higher income than somebody else, I have more religious knowledge than somebody else, and that makes me feel a little bit superior, that makes me feel like I deserve a little bit of tashrif, a little bit of additional respect. That is exactly what Imam Ja'far Sadiq ﷺ is speaking about in this hadith. Sallu ala Muhammad. Whether it be the wealth or whether it be that elite status and that position, that is a wolf, and I am that flock of sheep, unprotected. I won't realize it, but it will destroy my religion. And sometimes it destroys our religion in the name of religion, and that is when it is most dangerous. It can be an alim, that I am more learned and so I deserve a certain kind of special elite status. Respect is one thing. We give our elders respect, we give our ulama respect, but that is as a way of honoring the teachings of Islam and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and our connection to the Prophet. It is not a means for that person who is so honored to lose their humility or to think that they are superior to somebody else. Those are two different things. I honor somebody because in honoring that person, I obey my Prophet. In honoring that person, I honor my Prophet. And so I will honor my elders. I will honor my scholars. I will honor those people who have lived a life serving and sacrificing for Islam. That is for me to honor those values that we have in Islam. But if I am somebody who has given that sacrifice, who has that knowledge, who has that position, then I should not feel like I am superior to someone else. Let me just give you a couple examples that we find in our communities. For example, we sometimes I as an alim might say that there's no one here, and so I don't want to give a speech. Or I will be less motivated to convey a message when there are few people than when there are many people. I might say, okay, this is a big gathering, there's many people, they might invite me again, they might praise me, they might honor me, I need to do a good job. But then when there's 3 people, then I say, well, I can, as they say, I can phone it in and not really give any attention. If I'm doing it for the sake of Allah, then the sharaf or the honor or the praise that comes from people should not make a difference to me. But if I'm doing it for the sake of people, then it will make a big difference. It might even destroy my motivation. If I am a reciter, sometimes you will find that there are reciters, they say, I want to be at the end when there is the maximum crowd. But in many cases, you might get the most thawab if you recite at the beginning when no one else wants to go and when there are no other volunteers. Allah is there. His angels are there to record. But it just depends on whether my motivation is for the sake of Allah or for some other cause. It's a very beautiful and a very vivid example that Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam gives us. And this is an example that I think all of us can find in ourselves. I gave 2 examples relating to our community life and in the masjid, but it's an example that in our personal life, in every aspect of our life, we can find where we are subject to that hunt by the wolves of love of this world, and where we need to be more careful to protect ourselves and to protect our deen. In another hadith, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam he says that shaitan has many different ways of trying to tempt people. Inna shaitan yudiru ibn Adam fi kulli shay. He tries to manage, he tries to tempt people in different ways, different kinds of temptations. Gossip, sinfulness, laziness in doing a good deed, whatever the temptation might be. All different kinds of temptation. Then sometimes it so happens that a believer is able to say no to shaitan. فَإِذَا أَعْيَاهُ. I say, no, I'm not going to drink. No, I'm not going to gamble. No, I'm not going to gossip. No, I'm not going to listen to gossip. No, I'm not going to be jealous of other people. No, I am not going to delay my prayers. No, I'm not going to withhold my khums. After I keep saying no to shaitan, then what does he do? فَإِذَا أَعْيَاهُ جَثَمَ لَهُ عِنْدَ الْمَالِ فَأَخَذَ بِرَقَبَتِهِ. Then shaitan comes to a person with love of this world, with love of mal and wealth, and he takes the person by the neck. And this is something, if you look at Islamic history, you will find that even pious people, they will sometimes slip when it comes to love of this world. Sometimes it's even the case that it's easier for a person to sacrifice their life than to sacrifice their wealth, because their wealth is the source of their self-esteem, their pride. Maybe they want to pass on a legacy to their coming generations. Who knows if it will reach them? Who knows if they will use it for good or for evil? But sometimes people that desire for wealth and the security that comes emotionally from having wealth, it causes us to be tempted by shaitan when all of his other temptations fail. So Imam Ja'far Sadiq says that be aware that when all of his other traps have failed, this is the trap that shaitan will try to use to make you think that money is what is important. And your religion is going to take away your money. And therefore, he begins to distance you from your faith and from your religion. And once you are distant from your faith, then he can distance you from everything else as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The next section that we will be looking at, and these are all the related teachings of Ahlul Bayt, but I will just mention one hadith inshallah and then we will conclude, is that the Imams have emphasized for us that we should avoid boredom and laziness. And these are twin problems. These days we get bored very easily, just because there's so many different attractions that we are used to, so we have to spice everything up. Even if we had a choice, people would say, why don't you spice up the namaz? Salat, it's the same prayer, same surahs, maybe put a presentation, make it a little bit more flashy. So this is what we want now in our religious activities, what we want in those areas that are meant to be educational and spiritual. The desire for entertainment, the desire for excitement, the tendency to become bored, it's ever present. These are two things that Ahlul Bayt have emphasized that we should avoid. I'll just mention one hadith, and this is from our seventh Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhim as-salatu was-salam. It's the wasiyah of Imam Musa Kadhim for his children. He said, وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْكَسَلَ وَالضَّجَرِ. Avoid laziness and avoid boredom. فَإِنَّهُمَا يَمْنَعَانِكَ حَظَّكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. These two attributes, they will prevent you from getting your share of this world, and they will prevent you from getting your share of the hereafter. And the important point is that we control whether we are bored or not. Many times we think that it's beyond our control. Children will say, I'm bored. Well, if we are able to decide what we want to think about, what we want to prioritize in our lives, what is valuable for us, then I am not made bored by my circumstances. I allow myself to be bored by not doing and not thinking about those things that are valuable. So I should never feel that society, circumstances, lack of access to entertainment or to internet or to whatever makes me bored. If I have a tendency to be bored, then it means that I have not given myself something to do. Meaning I have not thought about what is important and what is valuable, and that is why I find that I don't know what to do with my thoughts and I don't know what to do with my time. So boredom and laziness, they are related, and they come from not having a sense of priorities. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from boredom and from laziness and from a strong attachment to this world and all of the other vices that take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may He guide and protect us in every step of our lives. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We have just a few minutes until it is time for Salatul Maghrib. A reminder that we will go to the other hall for Salat, and then gentlemen will come back to this hall for Iftar. Ladies will stay in the other hall. There is also a separate area for children. If you have fasted or you have done a partial fast, then you can go to the little fasters area. There are snacks. There is iftar there for those between the ages of 5 and 11. And I encourage all of you to take a look at our programs, both virtual and in person, including the majalis and the observances for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. Please make full use of these opportunities to learn about our faith, to improve our recitation of Quran, and to come together with our community to worship, to pray, to learn about Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, because these opportunities, they do not come every day. And this month of Ramadan is a blessed time. We should avail ourselves of the opportunities that we find in this month. So inshallah, in a minute or so we will have adhan and we will begin Salatul Maghrib in the adjoining hall. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.